But you can
And then
also
you have
consider
to
that.
start video.
There we are.
There we go. Are we done? Like we are. Got it. All right,
I think computers.
good.
Yes,
Okay,
we are
everyone.
recording.
Okay, this is the October 12th, 2022. Borough of Flemington, Planning Board and Board of Adjustments meeting. This meeting is called and pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. All adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by way of publication in the Huntington County Democrat and Courier newspapers on or about January 20th, 2022. In addition, notice of the meeting was posted on the door of the Borough of Flemington Municipal Building located at 38 Park Avenue, and any handicap accessible entrances there too. Posted on the municipal website, provided to the municipal clerk and distributed to all persons, if any, requesting copies of same. This meeting is being recorded, both audio and video, and may be rebroadcast. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. All rise.
Pledge to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Driver?
Present. Where are we getting? Hey, Mike, can you mute yourself after you say, yeah, there you go. All right, try it again. Sorry.
Here,
Mike Campion?
here,
Mayor Driver?
Here.
Mr. Parker is excused, Mr. Dashna is excused, and Ms. Weitzman are excused. Mrs. Engelhardt,
Here.
Mr. Cook,
Here.
Mr. Budney.
Here.
Ms. Giffen,
Here.
Mr. Hill,
Here.
Leggett,
Here.
Ms. Kaczynski.
Here.
Mr. Farrow,
Yeah.
Ms. McManus,
Here.
Mr. Troutman is excused.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we always start our meetings with item number 1. Public comments. Do we have any public comments related to any items that are not on the agenda for this evening? Do we have any public comments from those in the audience? Okay, is there anybody online that wants to have any public comments on anything that is not on the current agenda? Please raise your hand. Okay, so seeing none, we will move on to item number 2, which is mayor comment.
Only a couple of things. Last night at council, we had a first reading to make Corcoran one way. Right now it's westbound, but I heard some feedback today from some of the folks on Corcoran who might prefer it eastbound, so I've reached out to the engineer to see if eastbound might not be better than westbound. Has to be one way because we need to redo that road, and we have to put sidewalks in, and there's just not enough room to keep it 2-way and put sidewalks in and properly do that road. So that's kind of forcing that issue into it. And if you've been down Corcoran within, say, the last 10 years, you know how desperately needed that road needs to be fixed. Another item we had first reading on last night was to add 2 crosswalks to Stengel Road. And also we approved on second reading after the public hearing to extend the DB zone northward On the east side of Main Street up through T-Berries, and on the west side of Main Street up through the dermatologist office. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Driver. Next up is council comments. Tony's not here, and Mayor just went through everything. Let me just make sure.
No, he,
No.
He's excused. I didn't know. I didn't hear
yeah,
that.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
If there was an email, there were so many emails this today that I may have.
There was a lot at the end of the day. Okay, HPC comments. I don't think we got any HPC in our email, did we?
We did have 3 resolutions, 20 William, 94 Main and 235 South Main. That was, I think the week of the September 20 something,
Okay,
but they were all distributed to the board.
okay, and I don't see anybody in the audience here that we need to discuss it. So I guess we're okay with everything there. Nobody had any comments on those from the email.
Negative.
We'll move on to item number 5, the approval of the minutes from the September 30, 2022 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Cook.
Second Hill,
Eileen?
I'd like to make one correction. I made an address error on actually Mr. Cook's address, or actually his wife's address of, I put 29 Main West 39 Pennsylvania. Sorry. So.
Does anybody else have any?
I made it clear from the skip.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. Does anybody else have any conditions or comments to those minutes?
Mr. Cook,
Eileen?
Yes.
Mr. Hill,
yes.
Mayor Driver,
Abstain.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mrs. Engelhardt,
Abstain?
Mr. Budney,
Yes.
Ms. Giffen,
Yes.
Mr. Levitt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the minutes from September 20th, 2022, our regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Cook. Any seconds?
Do we have any comments or corrections, clarifications to those minutes? Huh? Okay, I mean,
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Budney,
Yes.
Mayor Driver,
Abstain.
Yes.
Mrs. Engelhardt,
yes.
Ms. Giffen,
Yes, for the parts that I didn't retrieve.
Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Levitt.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 7. Resolution 2022-09, Flemington Center Urban Renewal LLC, Union Hotel redevelopment, approval of amended site plan.
Yes, that will be ready for the next meeting on October 25th, and will be circulated to the applicant and the board professionals for review.
All right, so that one will be heard, will be reviewed on at the next meeting. Correct. Great. We'll move on to item number 8, completeness for 161. Dolce LLC, block 14, lot 37, 161 Main Street, minor site plan.
Robin Bryant from Lands and Lands on behalf of 161 Dolce LLC. I have Chris Nutter with me from.
Can you just hold on 1 minute? We want to get a microphone on you. That's a little.
Is this? Is this?
Right on the table.
Just so that it's, they can hear it on the recording. All right, can you start again, please? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Robin Wright, I'm an attorney at Lands and Lands on Main Street, and we're here on behalf of 161 Dolce LLC. And I have Chris Nusser with me. He's an engineer with engineering and land planning associates. And he's here, and we're here to respond to any questions.
You want to start with consultant comments first?
I think if Bob wants to.
Do you want to go Bob or Beth first?
Bob.
Bob, okay,
We're here to complete, so.
yeah, we're only here for 20 minutes, so can we, kind of walk through it? Thanks, Bob.
We do it, do I? No.
Now,
Do I give them up this one or we keep this
you
one?
pick me up or? Does that pick me up?
It's pretty strong.
This one?
Hey, Jim, can you hear him?
Can you hear Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I'll talk loud. So there's a updated, well, there's a second completeness report issued. The board had an earlier report. This was deemed incomplete. So report number 2 is just an update on what had been submitted since the issuance of the report, which was dated September 30th. The applicant did make a subsequent submission of supplemental information on October 6th. It's not reflected in this particular report. But the report essentially indicates outlines what the application is for. On the second page, just lists the various documentation that's been submitted. In addition to what's listed here, based on the October 6th submission, there's a new application form that was submitted that will be under item A. And it was a revised sheet of the site plan submitted, sheet 3, which is under G. That was a revision of October 3rd, 2022. The other documentation that was submitted was a copy of the Form A application. That's part of the revised application. It's not a completeness issue. They also submitted a draft notice. And again, I mentioned the existing conditions plan. The items that were deemed to be going through, starting on page 3. Item 1 was incomplete for the lack of an application A form that has been submitted. So my report says it remains incomplete, but it's been subsequently provided. Item 20, they were asking for a temporary waiver, some owner certification signatures on the plan. I was recommending that as a temporary waiver. Items 27, 28, 42 were deed restriction issues. They were requesting a temporary waiver. I was recommending they deny that based on we needed an updated conditions plan, which has been submitted, so that item is now complete. Items 30 and 32, I was recommending temporary waivers on those particular items. Item 33 was payment of application escrow fee. They initially requested a waiver. They've now provided that information, so that item is complete. Item 35 was showing land uses within 200 feet. That had been incomplete. That's now complete with the revised plan. Reflects adjoining land uses. Items 37, 8, 39, 40, and 41 relate to environmental issues, DEP, floodplain certifications, things of that nature. The applicant has stated these were not applicable. Technically, they always are applicable. So, but in this case, I would grant permanent waivers because there really isn't anything to be provided here. It's a developed site. There's obviously no wetlands, things of that nature. Item 44 dealt with showing topographical conditions extending 200 feet beyond the property. They have requested a waiver. I was recommending, it's actually a partial waiver because they are showing topographical information on site. I was recommending the granting of the partial waiver because they to extend 200 feet beyond the property. Items 47, 40, 46, 47, 48, and 49 deal with existing drainage systems and drainage area maps. They were requesting a waiver. I was recommending the granting of a waiver, and there's really no proposed impervious surfaces being constructed as part of this application. Item 50 was utility plans. They were requesting a waiver, indicating there was no proposed utility connections. I was recommending a temporary waiver subject to receiving input from the Borough Water and Sewer Department. There are some utility connections, whether they're affected by the proposed construction or whether the utility department, if I'm adequate or not, is something we really need to wait to see on, but we don't necessarily need to have that if you determine it to be complete. Item 51.2 relate to soil erosion sediment control plan. They have the applicant said they were not applicable. Again, I was recommending a temporary waiver subject to review and determination if additional improvement disturbance will be necessary. Again, the plan is presented, they're not proposing any, but as it'd be a temporary waiver as we get into the application, if there's a necessity to disturb parts of the property, then we would deal with that at that point in time. Item 54 was construction details. It was incomplete. I was recommending a temporary waiver pending review of the project. Again, they're not really proposing any proposed improvements, although it is possible, I won't say likely, it's possible in review of the application, that some improvements may be required. Item 58, 59 deal with lighting and landscaping. They were requesting a waiver for the stated reason they're not proposing any landscaping or lighting. Again, I was recommending a temporary waiver pending the actual review of the project. Item 62 was site triangles. It was incomplete. I was recommending a temporary waiver pending review of the project. Item 63 and 68 was a traffic impact statement. I was recommending temporary waiver unless Jay has some input. I believe Jay issued a letter on this. I think
Yeah,
I believe he was saying he didn't think he needed anything.
you wanted to review that now or while we got it? There's actually two memos from Jay, one on October 5th. And one, oh, no, I'm sorry, the one is for the other one, it's just October 5th. He only has one memo. I think there was an email today or yesterday saying that he went over that with you,
No, that was on.
or that was the other project, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty sure I remember it
So
said
maybe-
it wasn't an issue, but I don't.
Jay says it's a temporary waiver.
Right.
To be granted for 60.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine, thank you.
And 61 and 69 is site signage, which they were requesting a waiver. I was recommending, again, the waiver. They're not proposing any signs. Again, as we get into the application, if it becomes an issue, they'll obviously have to provide it, but as presented, they're not proposing any new signage for the application. So if you're summarized on the last page, if you're in agreement with this, I listed the items that be granted as waivers, the items being listed as temporary waivers, the one item to be a partial waiver. Then I was recommending denial for the deficiencies under 27, 28, 42. As I indicated, that's now complete. And also the deficiencies under 127, 28, 42, which I believe are all related to the application form, which have also been provided. So that can be deemed complete. So if you're in agreement, you take the actions under 1, 2, and 3, and then you deem the application to be complete.
Item 60, what did that fall into?
Temporary waiver, did I miss that in the list?
Yeah, and then 61 and 69,
Yep, left that one out of the list.
and then 61 and 69 were
Would
both
be,
temporary or?
No, permit, they're up there, they're up there.
The 61 and 69 are listed under. item
Right. I missed 6.
So
Yeah.
if you guys have that clerical thing all taken care of, I'd like to make a motion that we deem the application complete. With waivers for under Bob's item number 1, waivers for 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 46, 47, 48, 49, 61, and 69. Temporary waivers for checklist items 20, 30, 32, 50, 51, 52, 54, 58, 59, 62, 63, 65, 68, and 60. Right.
I think we missed 49.
Was in a full waiver in one.
49 is up.
Oh, yep, you're right.
So we only have 60 to item.
Add 60 to temporary.
Add 60 to temporary, partial waiver for item number 44, as Bob discussed. And I believe that would be the end of my motion. Other numbers, not motion.
I need a second,
I'll second.
Eileen. First we should do we have any comments? From anybody on the discussion, comments? From the board?
My only comment is thank you, Bob.
No comments? Eileen?
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mayor Driver.
Yes.
Mr. Cantor.
Yes.
Mrs. Engelhardt.
Yes.
Mr. Budney.
Yes.
Ms. Giffen.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. See you in.
It's soon.
Thank you.
Do we not, do we need to schedule that now, or?
It's up to the board.
Well, I have the kind of the breakdown of what, you know, is on the rest of the year agenda that we have not discussed with, I discussed with, Jeff, so we can try to find something.
October 25th, of course, it's only 2 weeks, away, well, less than 2 weeks, it's pretty full.
And we already have a lot on that
The
agenda.
next
so
meeting is November 15th, because of election day, it's the third Tuesday.
That's where we were hoping to get you on.
Okay.
November 15th. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can confirm that with you guys will pencil you in as a possibility for that week until we hear from you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank
Thank
you.
And I do have a copy of the draft notice, so I'll take a look at that and then let you guys know if there's any
Okay,
issues or questions.
thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Can I just ask you a quick question for November? That means we're not meeting on the 22nd. November 15th.
We have meetings scheduled for the 15th and the 22nd.
Okay. Oh, no,
We
we
just-
do, of course, yeah. Okay.
Right,
All right, I started to have a moment.
Yeah, I know what you were thinking. We're
Yeah, we have-
getting to that.
we have two meetings
Yeah.
scheduled for November and December, they've just been moved around so that because of the holidays.
I know what you're thinking. We're almost there. We'll get to that. Don't worry. Okay, so we are moving on to item number 9. Completeness for this new NJ LLC block 38, block 1.01, 144 Main Street, preliminary and final site plan. Shara, thought you were, I thought this was, are we,
This is completeness, so.
oh, we're doing completeness now and site plan.
We are, so we're going to do completeness, we're gonna do that first. The applicant will not be proceeding tonight with regard to the public hearing because there's some adjustments that need to be made with the notices that were provided and the addresses. There were a couple issues. So what we'd like to do is to schedule it, we can make a public announcement to schedule it for the next meeting on October 25th at Sangle. And we'll do that after, but let's see them complete first and then we'll go ahead.
Got it, that's fine. I literally got home at 5:30, so I was reading these emails that happened between 11 and 5:30 very quickly. Okay,
You got it all, you got it all. Susan.
we got it, we just catching up with all the emails. for the
Yes.
last hour and a half before the meeting, so I apologize. Okay. You're
Aaron
on.
Colton, appearing tonight on behalf of Tidbits LLC. With me is Skylar Bird, managing member. And I believe on our Zoom call would be Gary R. O'Connor, the architect, for this project. I'm not
Yep,
sure
I
which.
see him. Let me get him promoted. That should be there now. Are you there? There we are. Gary, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Great, good. We can hear you well. Welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
As a completeness review, we're here to answer any questions you may have, or Mr. Clark. They have for us, right? So I'll turn it over to you. So.
So Bob, you want to take us through it
Sure.
and see how
There's a-
Jarvis go today?
The report dated October 7th. It's actually in 2 parts. The first part just deals with the completeness. The second part deals with comments relating to the merits of the application, which we're obviously not going to discuss tonight. So dealing with the completeness issues, I outlined, and there was a prior discussion on this, there was a prior action at your meeting to grant some waivers. Your meeting was June 28th. This is a resubmission to deal with the items that were previously deemed to be incomplete and not waived. So I went through, again, all the documentation we previously received, new documentation that's been submitted. We'll go through what they are, they're all spelled out in the letter. And I can just really make this go real quick. I listed on these things, items that were previously incomplete, items that are now complete, and I referenced the submission items that made them complete. For the most part, the significant one was that there was a updated survey of the property, there was a title report submission, there was and an updated site plan that was submitted in conjunction with that. There were some other related documents as well. Those were the substantial ones. So the first grouping of items dealt with surveys and title search. That's now complete. The second group dealt with a site photography that's been incorporated in a plan that's now complete. Item 36 dealt with environmental features, flood hazard, whatnot. That's now complete. They provided an ortho aerial of the site and a partial waiver on some components of this was previously granted by the board. The next group of items dealt with of waivers that they required, and the partial waiver was granted by the board back in June. Going on to the next page, there's issues relating to topography extending 200 feet beyond. Partial waivers were granted back in June. Drainage area map waivers were granted back in June. Environmental impact statement waivers were granted back in June. Spot elevations is now complete. Again, they provided some additional documentation in their submission items of the survey and the site plan. Item 54, construction details. They provided some detail. They provided details as part of their submission, so that's complete. Item 55 deals with road cross sections and profiles. They had requested a waiver. Again, I think we asked for some additional information. That's now saying it's now complete based on the submission items H and I. Item 58 deals with lighting. That's now complete based on submission item H, which is the site plan. 59 was the landscaping plan. That's now complete based on the site plan. It's been updated. Site plan has been submitted. Item 60 is solid waste management. That's now complete. They did submit under item K a solid waste management plan or narrative. Item 62 deals with site triangles. The waiver was granted by the board back in June. Item 68 was traffic impact statement. A waiver was granted back in June. You also have some technical comments from Jay once you get the review of the actual application. 69 was relating to sites sign standards. It's now complete based on submission item H. So either the items that were previously incomplete and not waived have been provided, and you can deem them complete. And I just restated the action you took back in June 28 in the event you want to take it all over again. But my notes say you actually took that vote back on June 28th. So if you're in agreement with the above, you can deem the application to be complete.
Well, I'll make a motion. We deem the application complete, given the waivers that were already granted by the board back in June, and everything else is complete.
Do I have a second?
Driver seconds.
Do we have any comment on the board discussions?
Is there anything else from that's memo? I think we're good.
No.
Not for completeness. Remember this.
Yep.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mayor Driver,
Yes.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mrs. Engelhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Budney,
Yes.
Ms. Giffen,
Yeah.
Mr. Hill. Are you frozen?
Nope.
Now he's on. Oh, yes.
There he is.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Levitt,
Yes.
very good.
Great. Thank you, everyone. This project is, as we said earlier, is going to be presented for final site plan on October 25th. But that meeting will be held at the Stangl Factory, 4 Stangl Road, and at the intersection of Line and Stangl. So just so everybody knows, both here and virtual for this project will be there next time.
Correct, so it's going to be adjourned. No additional notice at this time, with the exception of the notices that must be corrected with regard to addresses and addressees. Again, that's 1025, 7 o'clock, Stangl Factory, 4 Stangl Road, also known as 12 Line Street. And anyone looking to make any comments for or against the application can appear at that night or virtually in connection with the application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you. All right, so we're moving on. We're gonna do this once then. Thanks. Okay, we've got chair items now. So of course. that's you.
Oh, I wasn't trying to.
Oh, I thought you were
No, I was
talking.
just-
All right, we have chair items next. First of all, as we just mentioned, our next meeting is Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. It's going to be held at Stangle Factory, 4 Stangle Road, intersection of Stangle and Mine Street. For those of you that didn't just hear, like you said, the final site plan for Millie's Luncheonette will be on the agenda, as well as the continuation of the public meeting for Family Promise, which I know was something else that a few people had asked where and when that would be. So that has been confirmed. I actually confirmed with George Eckelman 2 days ago that we're kind of touch base with him. He's, of course, still reserved, as well as the audio equipment that I had reserved for the last time. And I'll talk to Todd about this as well today, but we'll coordinate with Mike and DPW guys, as well as Mike Humphrey, as far as setup and help and stuff that we need for that day, depending on if there's any events before or after in that space.
So, question, based on our bylaws, what would the agenda be? And what order?
I was just gonna ask that too.
Based on our bylaw.
Yeah.
I mean, what goes first? I'm drawing a blank.
Well,
The
that-
Well, Family
continuation.
Promise
Family
was
Promise.
scheduled prior to this,
Okay,
so
so,
we would begin with board deliberation,
okay,
and that's where we ended. And then to the.
so for those that are recused, it'll be later. I'm just trying to.
I mean, listen, I'm not in,
No, I mean, at 7 o'clock. I know, it's just, board
That's
deliberation
generally
comes
what-
first.
correct, that's generally the way that it
Okay.
it goes.
They
certain-
were continued and announced.
Perfect.
Jeff and I actually talked
We
about
would
that.
probably do the
Confirm that.
resolution
Okay,
first.
yeah, I mean, I don't think we all
Minutes
do
resolution,
resolutions, but that's
or-
typically.
the courthouse square project.
Well, I can say Jeff and I chatted this morning, and Family Promises first, and Tidbits the second. So,
Yeah, they're just beginning.
along with the regular agenda that we do.
Perfect.
Because Family Promise is a continuation from last time. All right, so we've got that announcement. I do want to talk a little bit about the master plan. We were meeting, this is Hannah, myself, Jeff, Todd. We met in the spring a couple times with Beth. Summer was kind of slow, but it was difficult to get everybody together on the same schedule. We've had 2 or 3 meetings since the end of summer on the master plan at this point. So I just want to kind of give a little update, maybe Beth, you wanna take over with a little summary?
Yeah, so, one, I distributed a memo that talked a little bit about schedule, just, I wanna make sure folks have that, and you sort of have those dates in mind. But the bigger picture is that I am working on 3 or maybe 2.5 elements of your master plan. It's land use, it's economic development, and it's goals and objectives. The half, if you want to call it that, is goals and objectives, it's pretty small. I've been working with the subcommittee. We've got a lot of some of the existing foundation done, and now we're moving into policy and information, and also public input, and that's sort of the phase that we're in right now. And as I talked to the subcommittee about the process and trying to wrap things up, I put together this schedule that I wanted to share with the board, because we're getting towards the end of the year, we're getting towards the end of this process, and I want to make sure that, I mean, frankly, if we're not gonna have a forum, but we're gonna have a meeting, into the meetings, I really want to know. So the schedule that's set forth now is, so folks know, I'm putting together a survey that will be distributed to the community that will ask for input. For those of you that might be thinking about the other input that's been done over the last year, couple of years with the FCP, I will say that this survey is a shorter version than what might have occurred if none of that outreach did not already take place here in the borough. So we're doing a more focused survey to answer questions that have not really been thoroughly addressed through the work that FCP is doing, because that's a different organization than what we're doing here.
So we're putting together a survey. It's gonna be finalized at the end of this week. It's gonna be distributed. I will work with the subcommittee on that. Actually, tomorrow we have a meeting for anybody that's watching their calendar. And then after that, we have for this board, the next meeting is November 22nd, and that's your planning board meeting that we just talked about a moment ago. And that's gonna be a community input session held at the planning board. And so at that point, I will be able to review the results of the survey that's been distributed to the community. And we'll be able to talk a little bit about the direction of the master plan. At that point, I will ask for board input on anything, as well as community input on things that are going to be presented. And then after that, our next meeting on the master plan is December 13th. That's, I think, your final meeting of the year. It's gotta be, yeah. And at that point, we're gonna hold a public meeting on the draft master plan. So you'll get it in advance, and we'll give an opportunity for the board to ask questions, same thing for the public, and if you're so inclined, hold a vote, and if you're so inclined, vote yes, and adopt the new master plan. Just like that. So the one thing I wanted to, so there are a couple things that I wanted to impress on the board. One is that we're moving quickly, we're coming to the end. And as part of that, you're going to be getting draft master plan documents. I would ask folks to read it, and you're always welcome to come talk to me at a planning board meeting, whether it's one of these listed or some other meeting that I happen to be at. But I really want to encourage folks to, especially even those folks on Zoom, reach out to me directly. Call me, text me, email me, questions, comments, concerns, issues that you think should be addressed. I really would prefer to get as much information from all of you prior to December 13th as possible, so that we can hopefully have a smooth meeting. So that's a quick summary of the master plan, where it is and where it's going.
Okay, and I talked to Jeff this morning, I've been asked to reiterate this for the board members that are here. Board members that aren't here, I'll follow up with each one of them. Please, please, please read that memo that was sent by Beth this week. And I can't stress this enough. Reach out to Beth on any thoughts that you have regarding the master plan. The earlier, the better, because the more input we get now before the listening session with the public, the better it's going to be. Because then we can all have kind of thought through some of these things, so that when there is comments from the board, it's either going to confirm or change our minds on things that we don't want to assume anything.
Yeah.
So I really like everybody to get their comments into Beth, reach out to her directly, please, please, please.
Yeah.
I, for one, take notes throughout the year about things that we talk about. You know, Eileen does her summary at the end of the year, with things that we talk about. Hey, you know, you want to put this in the master plan. Think back over the last couple of years, maybe even look back on some of the old agendas and notes, and think about things that you might want to see in this master plan, and please do it as soon as possible. That survey that Beth mentioned, it's complementing what the I Love Flemington has already done. I just want to reiterate that, you know, Mark from the county gave them a good chunk of money to, well, not Mark, but the county gave, Mark helped facilitate that, a good chunk of money to get those surveys done. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is meant to complement. So basically, Beth said, you know, there's a few comments questions that I did that were in those old surveys that I'd like to hear from. So the stuff that's going out, the survey that's going out, please encourage your friends, your family, and borough residents, you know, share it on social media, whatever you need to do, but please try to get as many of your friends to respond to that as possible. It is meant to complement. We're not reinventing the wheel here, with the exception of maybe your, you know, are you a borough resident? Everything else is going to be completely different and very limited and short in nature. So Beth went over this, but I'm going to reiterate it. November 22nd, that is the public session. That's us listening for a change. I will not talk. It is a listening session only. Okay. So we're here to take in all that info. And that's why I want everybody to get their info in as soon as possible to Beth, because I want that to be incorporated in before we hear from the public, so we can really take their comments to heart. the preliminary draft review, that's our work session, that's December 6th. And then hopefully we'll get it all wrapped up by the end of the year. We've been working on this quietly throughout the year, but we just want to make sure that it's all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed. And Beth's been working hard on it, so let's not waste the opportunity.
In terms of outreach, I just want to, not outreach to the community, but reaching out to me for all of you. Please, just no question, comment, concern is too small. Don't feel like you need to send me a white paper on a topic you're interested in. You can just write, what about this? And we can start a dialogue and go from there. So don't hesitate. Just give me your stream of consciousness and all the time.
There was one other item that I was hoping to bring up today, and that is, there's a meeting on Friday regarding tourism, and it definitely relates to the master plan and just kind of our long-term goals. I'm actually gonna be out of town, so I cannot attend. Is anybody planning on attending that, or is? You are?
Economic
Perfect.
development, I'm speaking-
Yes.
I'm speaking at it,
Well,
make sure
then-
you get tickets. Otherwise, they will not allow you in the door.
Right, you need to RSVP, and that's what I was gonna say. We've got to be perfect. I just wanna make sure somebody was going, because I'll be cheering on my son at his cross country meet in Florida, so I will not be here, but I really wanted somebody to attend, so obviously we have a speaker and attendee. So maybe you guys can report back and tell us all about it at the next meeting. I'd really love to
I
hear
have
about it.
a master plan, does that go to council at all? for a vote? No, I didn't think so.
No,
Okay,
it's
I
just
just wanted to
on
make sure, because the dates weren't lining up.
Yeah, and I wanna make sure we get the proper notices and everything, in time, I'll go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just
Hold
the
on,
13th, right? I mean,
It's the 13th. It's
The
public
13th,
hearing. That's
December
the
13th.
12/13, yeah, that was my understanding, I just, again, wanna make sure we haven't done one of these.
And the 6th as a work session doesn't need to be.
No,
And the
and it's a
22nd,
work session. Okay,
it's just a work session to discuss.
because we do have a meeting scheduled on the 6th.
Right.
Yeah.
and it's not the public hearing that
I-
needs to be.
yeah, I
noticed
just wanted
properly
to
according to the land
clarify.
use law for the adoption. of
It's
the-
still a public meeting, everybody can come,
Yeah.
anybody can come from the public, but the meeting prior is the.
Well, we have an actual planning board meeting.
We
scheduled
do,
then.
and we'll
The
be able
meeting has to be
to.
noticed like it already is, but we don't have to notice the documents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
I want to know that
any
there's
bills,
just one public hearing on December 13th.
Okay.
we have any bills and stuff, we can still, they'll all still be, it's a
No,
normal
I'm
agenda
just
in that
thinking
regard.
that we might have other items as well, that,
We might be, and we tried to take into account all the active
we don't know when other
applications.
applications coming.
That's true. We tried to take into account kind of where we thought some of
Oh, I
this stuff
understand.
would fit in, so hopefully we'll be able to get it all in. Work it out either way. Karen has.
Yeah, I was just thinking based on what both of you said about this, regarding outreach to the public. In terms of, is some additional explanation of these two dates and what would be expected, because really, without using the wrong words, if I do, effectively, the community input session is more of what people would normally think of as the public hearing, although it is officially a public hearing. That is their chance to change the document before we may possibly adopt it on the 13th. Is that correct? So what I'm thinking is the public, I don't want the public coming along on the 13th and then thinking that they can add things in at that point. The best time to do that is in the survey and the community input session, right?
That is absolutely.
And then bring it in. So I just wonder if we might, as a board, want to put that out formally, that by the way, public, this is we want your input on this date, not at what you would normally come along and make a statement at the public hearing.
So yes, we just want to be careful about how we characterize the public meeting.
I
but the
understand that, I
sentiment
don't
is-
want to
But I think the sentiment is accurate, that if people have like, not just big ideas, but if you have big ideas, for example, like the most challenging thing to incorporate into the plan,
yeah.
I would love to see them in November.
Mhm.
As opposed, and then by the time we see them presumably again in December on the 13th, that idea has already been heard by the planning board and incorporated into the master plan, or not. 'cause
And
it's-
discussed at that December 6th session.
I
I'm
think,
saying.
I think maybe if there's some sort of outreach either online or however it is we want to do it, that lists each meeting and what's going to take place at each meeting. So on the
Yeah, we
22nd,
want your input.
the public can make comments. On the 6th, the board's gonna discuss their comments as well as the public comments, and then it's anticipated on the 13th, we're going to have a final document that may or may not be adopted by the board, so then it's kind of clear
Right.
the progression.
I'm just
You
looking
see it
at
all together.
Yeah.
You're right, thinking about extra explanation, because otherwise people might think, oh, they're just pushing it through at the end of the year.
Correct.
But
Right.
there is two really good options of how they can get, but we need to make sure they're aware of that, rather than just focusing on the December 14th
Yeah.
ones. They might come and say, oh, they just rubber stamped it through, I didn't have a chance
Yeah.
to change it.
Right, right.
No,
I
that's a good
don't
point.
want that to be leveled at as when you're providing two
Why
major
don't we put,
sections.
why don't we put together some sort of like graphic that we can have, maybe get put on the
Yeah,
website?
We haven't really, like, we sort of talked about, and in the subcommittee, we talked about the outreach effort of the survey and what would be contained in there, but one of the things we really haven't gotten into is the messaging.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Why don't we
And
put that on our agenda for tomorrow and we'll
Maybe
come up
add
with
it
something.
into the survey that says,
Yeah.
but then, are you planning to, could you please plan to come along on the 13th and you can raise things in, it'll like.
Yeah.
Trigger people.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's,
Yeah.
Sorry, not the 13th, the 22nd.
Yeah, I got you.
we know you know.
And that's why we should put the dates in there.
22nd.
Thank you, Karen, that's a great idea. We'll do that tomorrow. Okay, do we have anything else as far as that goes? Okay, so let's move on to item number 12, bills.
I make a motion on the bills, they're all correct.
Have a second,
Different seconds.
Eileen?
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mayor Driver?
Yes.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Stephen?
Yes.
Mrs. Engelhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Budney?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, professional reports, do we have anything from you, Kara, Beth?
No.
Good, all right. So do we have any reason to go into executive session? No, so I can adjourn the meeting.
The next minute, it'll be less than 50 minutes long.
Need a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Nice. Do I have to?
I'm gonna take a minute.
All right.
For meeting.
So full meeting.
Yes,
next meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. We'll make sure we're.
Oh, I think we make